Okay, so what I wanted to do here is to show you how I approach comping up a label on a bottle. So first thing, after we've rendered out our template in Fusion, I'm going to be comping in Photoshop. Here's my render. I've brought it in. Now, when I render these out, I typically render about 1200 pixels tall. So if we look at this, Control 1 to bring it at full screen, you'll see this is pretty tall. All right. By the way, it's Control Center, scroll your center mouse button to zoom in and out. Okay. And I'm hitting, you'll see me periodically shifting to the hand. I'm hitting the space bar to do that. Okay, one of the first things we want to do is turn this into an artboard, because we're going to do 3 versions of our label on 3 different artboards. So the first thing we want to do is turn this into an artboard. Okay, so to do that, and your move tool up here, okay, underneath it you'll see an artboard tool. And then what we want to do is just drag a board that matches our render. Okay, now we can trim this in a little bit if we want to. So I may bring this in a little bit to the side. I'm going to be putting 3 of these side by side, so I may want to get this a little bit tighter on the sides. I don't need quite that much space on the bottom, and maybe tighten it up on the top too. So pretty much centered on there. But later we're going to copy this and put another one over here, and so that'll be double this space in between them. So that's where I start off, okay? And so this is artboard 1. We can name this. We're just going to call this label 1. Okay, so this is our label. Now we're going to switch back to our move tool. So by the way, when we switch click off of the label, then you'll see it's not highlighted, but when I click on the word label, then that artboard is highlighted. And you'll notice that as soon as I do that, it switched from the move tool, it switched to the artboard tool in case I want to, resize it or something. Okay, so that's the first thing I'm going to do. All right, so the next thing, we've already created our branding, and we want to bring our branding into here. Okay, now I do that from Illustrator, from the original vector. So I'm going to switch to Illustrator here, and here is the original vector design. And then I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to take it directly into Photoshop. So with it selected here, these are grouped. So if I go to my layers, you'll see this is all grouped together. And I just hit Control C to copy it. Then I can go over to Photoshop and I can do Control V to paste. Now we have some different options in here when we're going to paste it. I use the first 2. Very seldom do I ever use pixels. Basically what this will do is if I bring it in, this is going to change this to pixels. It's going to rasterize it. Okay, and I don't want it rasterized. I want to keep it vector. So I'm just going to delete that. All right, so if I paste it, I can paste it as layers, okay? And if I paste it layers, it's going to keep the same layer structure that it did over in Illustrator, and it's going to keep it as vector. So if I click it like this, now one of the things it's going to do is, by default, when we're in Photoshop, we're using RGB color, and Illustrator defaults to using CMYK color. So it's just telling me, well, your color's going to shift a little bit here. And I'm like, okay, I know that. So just click continue. And then it's pasted it in. Okay. So now you'll see over here, now it's got a group, and then it's got a group inside the group. I really don't need the group inside the group. So I can pull this one out. Then I can just delete this one. And then I would rename this. We'll just call this ligature. Okay, now I bring the stuff in as black, and I don't know if you can tell or not, but this is not quite black. It's black made from CMYK, which is different than RGB black. So if I come in here and I select my color, you'll see that it's not pure black. So if I'm doing it this way, I'm going to go ahead and convert it to pure black like that. Okay. Now, the benefit or drawback of this is I can come in here and I can change colors and I can move these around. Okay. And there may be times where that's an advantage. But for me, and most things I do, that's not an advantage. So I don't do it that way. What I do is when I paste it in, I use it as a smart object, and I'll explain why. Okay, so now it's placed in here. Now you'll see it looks a little bit serrated, but that's just because it's highlighted. So once I drop it, this is a vector. Okay, now it's not quite black. Okay, and that's because it's CMYK black. So what I'm going to do is go back to Illustrator, and what I want to do is make what's called a spot color. Okay, so when we're printing in a printing press, we're using CYMK, cyan, magenta, yellow, and black to print with, but I can also do an overprint of a solid color of black. And so that's called a spot color, and that's what I'm going to do here. So I'm going to go to my swatches panel. Okay, on the swatches panel, I'm going to start by making a new group, a new swatch group. So I'm going to click, I'm just going to pull this off right now. I'm going to click right here and I want a new swatch group. Okay, and I'm going to call this the name of my project. So this is like creating a swatch group for a project that I could use, and then once I create this color swatches, I can import those into Photoshop. I can bring them into InDesign. So I'm going to create one, and I'm going to call it the name of this ligature, which is Nectar Zing. So I'm going to call it Nectar Zing, and I'm going to click OK. And now it's going to be right here. It's going to add it in. So you have a new folder down here. Okay. And now the first thing I want to do is I want to create a spot color for here. Okay, so I'm going to go right here and I'm going to say, now I need to have this picked because I'm going to create a new swatch and it's going to go in here. So we go here, new swatch. So now I'm creating a new swatch, and I don't want it to be process color. So the thing I'm going to change here is I want it to be RGB because I'm going into Photoshop using RGB. So change this to RGB. Then up here, I'm going to change this from process color to a spot color. And then I'm going to rename this. I'm going to call this Pure Black. There's nothing magical about the name, just something that I can refer back to. And you'll see that it defaulted to black, but it's not a pure black. Okay. So I need to bring these all 0, 0, 0, and now that's a pure black spot color, 0, 0, 0, okay, and I click OK, and now you'll see it in here. Now, can you see the little line by the corner? That lets you know that it is a global color. And what I mean by global color, when we're making a new swatch, okay, and we'll go back to process color, we can have this button where we click this global or not. And what global or not means that whenever this color swatch I make is that it's like an instance. Anytime I change the swatch, it changes anything that's ever used the swatch. And as soon as we do a spot color, then it's going to lock that whether I have that on or off or not. So if I have that off, it's going to switch it back on. Okay. And what that just means is that it's that color is locked into anything that's used it. Okay, so like in my case here, both of these use this black. So if I go back to this black and I double click on it and I change the color, it's going to change everything that was using that. Okay. So that's what the little triangle means. It means it's a global color. And any spot color that you make is a global color, because the reason in printing that we use a spot color is because we're using it for some documents, like a brochure, or we're using it in a poster. And so we're using that color in multiple places. And so it's what's called a global color. So now what I can do is going to put my swatch back over here. So when I go to my properties, okay, Now go to, and now instead of picking the whole thing, I'm going to use this tool. Okay, this allows me to pick each letter even though they're grouped together. And I can pick this one. And now I'm going to switch it from the CMYK black to a pure black. Okay. And now that's going to be a pure black. Okay, I'm going to pick this one too. And I'm going to make it a pure black too. Now this is recent colors. I can go down to pick this again, but I can just pick it from here. That's the colors that I used most recently. Okay, so now what you're going to notice is that when I pick this and I copy it and I take it over to Photoshop, and I'm going to leave this one in here, this one's CMYK, and I'm going to paste it as a smart object. Okay, you're going to see it's much more black. And that black's going to match the black that I'm going to be creating in here. Okay. So I'm going to get rid of this other one. Okay. So I'm going to rename this. This is going to be my ligature. And that's what I'm going to be using for the logo in this comp that I'm making. Now these are comps, but we can later we'll be able to actually create the final label from this too. Now, one thing I want you to know about this is this, since it's a smart object, it's linked back to Illustrator. So if I wanted to change the color of this, remember before I could come in here and pick the letters and change the color? All I have to do is click on this, double click on this icon. Now, not the layer, but the icon itself, double click on it, and it's going to launch it into Illustrator. Okay, now here's the original one, but this is the copy that it brought in. Okay, so this is linked back to the ligature that's in Photoshop. So if I go here and I pick just this one letter form and I come in here and pick a color, I'm just going to pick a random color right now, it doesn't matter what it is, and I save this. Now when I go to Photoshop, it's going to update it. Okay, so it's linked back and forth. So that's one of the reasons I use it as a smart object and not in groups, because I've already locked this in and I don't want to accidentally move any of this. Okay, and I don't have to deal with all the layers. Okay, so if I want to change the colors, which later I will, but at first I'm dealing with it in black and white. Okay, now another thing. Since I'm going to be making 3 designs, I may want the same logo on each one, but I want the colors to be different. Okay. Right now, if I went in and changed this color, you know, if I copied this, if I made a copy of this and put it on another template, and I changed one color, it would change all the colors on all of them. Okay. It's like they're instances of each other. So what you can do here is you can right click on here and don't say, and what you want to do is go here, it says a new smart object via copy. So what this is going to do is make me another smart object, but it's not going to be linked to the other one. So I'm going to do that. And so I'm going to pull this down. Now this is the copy one. Okay. So now when I double click on this and I bring it over here, now if I come in and I go, let's pick this letter form, and we'll make it maybe an orange. Okay, so now when I save this, and I go back over, then you'll see it's separate. So these are 2 vectors, 2 different smart objects. You can't just copy it. So you can't just copy this because then they're linked together. So you have to make a new copy by going new smart object via copy, and now these are not linked together. And that way I can have different colors when I get to that point. Now, at first I'm just designing with black and white, but I'm just knowing that later I'm going to explore colors. Okay. So I'm going to delete this and I'm going to go back over to Illustrator. Okay. Let's close this one. And here's the original one. And I want to switch this back to black right now. So when I'm doing and I'm just going to save this. So when I'm doing my text exploration, I want it to be black. Okay. And so this is in a folder here, and I'm going to name this folder ligature. We want to keep things organized. And now I can easily scale this. Okay. To fit down. Now, in Illustrator, and this is one of the differences between Illustrator and Photoshop, and people just do this all the time in Illustrator. In Illustrator, you have to hold down the Shift key when you scale something to keep it from distorting it. You don't have to do that in Photoshop. In Photoshop, it will automatically lock the aspect ratio. Now, if I hold the Shift key down in Photoshop, then I can distort it, but we don't normally want to distort things. All right, and also if you hold down the Alt key, then it scales to its center versus scaling to the opposite corner. Okay, so I want to get this onto my bottle. So I'm holding the Alt key and I'm going to scale it down. Now, when I'm putting it on the bottle, what I have to know is this bottle is round. So it's going to start distorting around the edge here and here. So I want it not to distort. I don't want our logo to distort. So I'm holding the Alt key, scaling from the center, from the corner, and it scales to the center. And now these are, and I can use my arrow keys, and I'm going to arrow this up. So I don't want to get it up here because it'll start distorting on that as that rounds in here. Okay. So that's about as high as I can get it, and it's not going to distort because it's before this turns round, it's before that turns round, and it's before this turns round. Okay. So that's the ligature. All right. Now, the other thing I want to do is I want to start with exploring different fonts. Okay, now I've already explored some fonts in here, and I have them in a group right here. So what I'm going to be doing here is this background color. Okay, so I can come in here, and I'm going to turn all these on. Not sure why they jumped off here. Okay, and I'm putting them out here. Okay. And I named, okay, I want this in its own folder, which is ligature. And this one is Nectar Design 1. Okay, and I misspelled nectar. Let's take the time to make sure we get it correct. Nectar. Okay. All right, so we have a working space now outside of this area, just like in Illustrator. Okay. So now it's kind of hard to see them. Okay, so there's all these fonts that I was playing with earlier, and it gets to where it's kind of hard to see them. So what I want to do is to is make this easier to see. So what you can do in here is you can right click out here and you can change the color in here. Okay, now I do a custom color, and my custom color I want to be white. So I want to be able to switch this so it's white out here. Now normally when I'm working I do light gray, so it's easy for me to see what's on the canvas and what's not on the canvas. Okay, so this is my work area, similar to what we were doing in Illustrator when we were doing our ligature. By the way, I have my Photoshop customized. I don't like the way Photoshop is out of the gate when you open it up, so I'm going to show you how I make changes. Now, right up off the bat, there's a thing up here called Auto Select. I hate that. So what it means is if I click to pick a layer and then I click off of the layer, then it deselects it, and I don't want it to deselect it. So I turn this auto select off. That way once I select a layer, then I've got that layer locked into my mouse no matter where I click, whereas that auto select will turn that off. Okay, I also don't want to see the transform gizmos. I hate that because I want to just see the letters. I don't want the transform gizmo. Now, if I transform it, Control T, then it will pop out, okay? But I don't want it every time that I pick something having that bounding box on it. I hate that. It messes with the design because it causes it where you can't just see the letter forms. Other things I change is right up here under this little gear right here. I don't like any of these. Show layers, bounds on a hover. I don't like any of these, and I turn them all off. Okay, so I turn these off. I turn transfer controls off. I turn auto select off. The only other thing I really kind of modify it is I don't like your gradient. So the gradient they have in here, I don't like this new gradient. I like the classic gradient, so I turn that when I'm using a gradient. All right. So then we're coming in here. All right. So it's nectar. Okay. Zing. So this was one of the letters that I went in and got. I says, okay, nectar. All right. So I'm just exploring different fonts. Okay. So I kind of like this one. All right. Once I like it, I hold the Alt and I'm going to drag it over here. And now I'm going to go through here and I'm going to try to find some others. Now I can just use my arrow down keys and I can go through these. Now there's a lot of these particular ones, so I'm going to skip around that and find other fonts that I like. I like that one. Okay, so at first I just do an exploration to give me a palette to create from. Okay. I'm just using down my arrow down keys. You can do that. This is a way just to kind of go through and see what's going on. Another thing you can do is just have your mouse and just skate over these till you find something that you like. Now, whether I want to use something that's bold or real decorative, I kind of like that one. Okay, just holding the Alt key, dragging it. Anytime you hold the Alt key, and I do it with my thumb, and I move something, it's going to make a copy of it. Okay, so now I'm just going to go through here and do some explorations of things that I like. Okay, something like this is nice, but it's got a definite personality. Okay, I stay away from things that are kind of outlines because they won't print well on a bottle. So something like this, these. Okay, Control T, holding down the Alt key, drag a corner. This is going to have some problems with these strokes falling apart, so I wouldn't use something like that for printing on a bottle, printing on a glass bottle. You may like that. I try to keep them approximately the same size when I'm making them, so they'll all be about the same size, so when I'm looking at them, I'm just looking at the differences in the shapes. See, I like this font, okay, but I don't like, that it's an outline. That's going to be a problem. Now, if we get our characters, sometimes there is one that's not outlined. So you'll see this defaults to outline, but here's a regular. There you go. So I like that. Control T. And just make it a little bit bigger. So now this is going for a little bit different kind of a look. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to go back to this one. This is just how I'm exploring fonts, but I'm going to comp with this one right now because I kind of like this one. Okay, Control T. I'm going to drag the corner. I'm not holding the Shift key, so it's already locked. And I like that. I'm kind of centering this underneath the ligature. Okay, and then the second word is zing. Now, since this is a script, and zing to me says movement, I explored some scripts. Something like this, okay? Now, this was all lowercase. This one's upper and lowercase. You're exploring that. So here's a mistake I see people do all the time, especially young designers. You can't use any kind of script all uppercase letters. It falls apart. Can't read it. Okay. Now, you can do it all lowercase letters. So all lowercase letters will work, or upper lowercase will work. Now you have to watch. A lot of times we spread words out. Okay, so we, spread the spacing in between them out. You have to be real careful in scripts in doing that, because it can start to fall apart because it's supposed to be like a written. So you can play with it a little bit, but it's harder. Okay, I think I'm going to go with this one right now. And I'm going to go back to here. So I kind of like that, Nectar Zing. So I am always Alt right clicking to pick the layer. So Alt right click will pick the layer. Okay, and so I want to center that one up. And I'm liking that pretty good. Now I've got to have room for the flavor in here. So this is going to be a little bit of a problem. Now I don't know if you noticed this, but when I take letters like this, see they're out here? I've got them, matter of fact, I usually put them in a group, and I'll call this workspace. And that way I can turn all of these on and off at the same time. But notice what happens, that as soon as I take this one, okay, let's take this one, it's that one right here, and I drag it into this artboard and drop it, it's going to drop it onto the artboard. When I take it off, it's going to drop it off of the artboard, okay? All right, so right now it's going to hide these, and we're going to focus on this. All right, so this is called Nectar Zing, so I'm going to put Nectar on top of Zing here. I'm going to pick both of these. I'm going to put them in a folder, and this is going to be my branding. So I try to stay organized as I do things, okay? That ligature goes in there. Okay, now this is going to be too big. I need some more room down here. Okay, so I'm going to take these two. Control T. I'm holding down the Alt key, and I'm going to drag them towards their center. Maybe something like that. I always want these as large as I can get them on the bottle. Okay, so I'm going to go up a little bit. Now I've got more room down here to play with where I'm going to put the other information. The other information I have to put on the bottle. So now I've got the ligature, and I've got the branding, and now I need the flavor of the product as well as what the product is. And we'll also have to put in here the measurement of how much is in the bottle. Okay, so in my workspace here, now this product is premium honey, okay, flavored with zest. Okay, so I made a little tagline, a descriptor here, and I'm going to bring that in. Premium zest honey. I'm also thinking what I want to do is on this branding is I'm going to tighten it up, and I'm going to let this curve float over the top of it. So right now it's just black, but I know in my brain what's going to happen here is this is going to be a color that's going to float in front of that. And that helps me tighten this up to give me a little bit more space in here. Okay, so I've got a flavor that's going to be called blood orange. And so I'm going to bring that in. And I'm going to kind of center that up. I think this Premium Zest Honey is too big. Control T, hold down the Alt key. Smaller, maybe something like that. Now I can't get it too close down here because this is rounded. Okay. All right. So there's blood orange. I'm going to go ahead and make so I'm going to give text here, and I'm going to say this is, 24 ounces. Oh, you can either spell ounces out or OZ, and I'm going to end up putting this up here on the neck. That's where I'm going to put it. It will distort a little bit, but it won't distort so much that you can't read it. So maybe something like that. So I'm going to move this down just a little bit. Okay, so there is my first comp. So now I've got a first comp. Okay. And now I'm going to make a copy of this. Okay, now I'm going to show you some others that I've already done just so you get an idea. So here's one. It's called Pure Revelry. Okay, so you'll see here's where I've got the ligature can be put in different places, but you can see on this one I wanted it at the top, and then I'm exploring different ways to put the name Pure Revelry on here. So you're going to be giving me 3 comps. And the 3 comps, you're going to be giving me different fonts for the name of the product, okay? You're going to be giving me different solutions and fonts for the flavor. Now, I've already decided this non-alcoholic mocktail base, okay? I'm putting it the same, and the 12 ounces the same on it, but I'm changing up the rest of this. Okay, here's another example. Okay, here's one. Wild Root Infusions is the name of the company, and it's vinegar. Okay, so the vinegar is infused with flavors, and then what I'm doing is giving me different ways that I could use this. Now you'll see here I've got the branding horizontal, but here I did it vertical so I could get it bigger in there. Okay, so you can explore that. So the text can run horizontal, or it can run vertical too. All right, so then I've got 3 flavors. This is blackberry cinnamon, this one's pineapple cardamom, and this one's grapefruit juniper. And so I'm exploring different fonts and for the different flavors as well. And so here's another example of how to design and explore different possibilities. All right, so now that I have this one, okay, so what we can do is go back to your artboard tool. Okay, then what you're going to do is over here, be sure you pick the folder, which is the artboard. Then you're just going to copy it. You're going to go Control C for copy, and then Control V for paste. And it's going to paste it right beside it. And then I can move it over, and I want to move it so that it goes right up next to it. Okay, like that. And then I'm going to do another one. I'm going to paste another one. Okay, and then the same thing, I'm going to slide that over so they match here. Okay, so now if I don't pick any of these here, then it will deselect. And now I've got 3 copies of this. So now I can go into each one of these and start altering it for each one of these. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is number 1 is done. So this one, I'm going to rename this as number 2. And then rename this one as 3. So when you rename them here, they'll update on their label up here. So I'm going to hide 3 and I'm going to hide 1. I'm going to focus on 2 now. All right, so I've got these fonts out in my no man's land out here, my workspace. And so I'm going to try to maybe use this word nectar. Okay, so I'm going to go over here and drag it. But when I drag it, I want to hold the Alt so I still keep my original, but I'm making a copy, and it's going to automatically put it in this section here. Okay. So, as a matter of fact, I want to keep these organized, so I'm going to go blood orange needs to be on top. No, my ounce is going to be on the top. Then my branding is underneath that. And then my ligatures on top of the branding. Okay, and then I'm going to put, all right, so there's and here's the flavor. Okay, so I copied this in. Okay, so it's here, and I need it to be in the branding. So I'm going to drag it into branding here. And then I'm going to hide that one. And I'm going to use this one too. I'm going to hide Zing too. So we're going to go here. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to tighten this a little bit. So I'm going to go minus 25. That's too much. Minus 10 maybe. That's okay. And I'm going to make this run over on the left. Okay, so I'm not going to center it. I'm going to have it going flush left. Okay, and then I'm going to go, let's look for a new Zing. I kind of like this font here. So I'm going to copy this. Oops. Right click, there it is, and now I'm going to hold down the Alt key and bring it over here. Okay, and this is going to be nectar. Alright, and now I need to get it scaled down. Control T, hold down the Alt so it scales from its center. And I'm trying to get this to fit across. Okay, now I want it to line to the left of this, so I'm going to go down a little bit further with it. Right about there. And now I'm doing a left alignment and ragged right, okay? So now I'm going to just leave it at blood orange right now, but I'm going to change this font. So let's go looking for a new font. I'm going to move it over here to the side. Okay, and I need something that's not, let's go, oh, by the way, this has been set up with a minus on my font. So where did my characters go? Character. And I'm going to put this at 0 so it's not. There we go. So it's not compressed in. And I can look at some different fonts. That's kind of a fun one. I made to explore that. Control T. Bring it in. I want it to be aligned with nectar. And there's number 2. Okay, so let's go there. And now this number 3. What I'm going to do here, since I've already made this canvas, is I'm just going to dump everything that's on it except for the ligature. So I'm going to pick everything and hit delete. And also want to name this layer where the bottle is. I need to name everything else because we're going to be sharing this with a client. Okay, so the ligature is still there. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to bring this text in. Okay, so I'm going to go to number 2, and I'm going to select everything. I don't need the ligature, and I need that. And now I'm just going to hold the Alt key, and I'm going to drag it on to Design 3, and it's going to copy and put it right back in the exact same place. And then I can explore from here. Okay, let's maybe go with, or I'm just going to copy nectar here, and I'm going to say, I'm going to go capital N. No, I just think I'm going to leave it all lowercase. Nectar. Okay, and then let's try some scripts. So I'm going to say, okay, let's try, I think first I'm going to try handwritten. Go scripts. It's too slanted. That's got a nice flare to it. Maybe we'll try that. Okay. Hold down the Alt key, drag it over. I can go in here and I can go ahead and hide one. And then I need to drag it to here. And then let's go ahead and hide 2. All right, so I'm going to go here. I'm going to turn that one off, and maybe I want a script like that for nectar. All right, I'm going to take this one, and I'm going to change this one to Zing, and now I'm going to look for a different font for it. So all classes, let's look for something zingy. Okay, so all right, let's continue. What can I get? I think I may go for not something that tall. Let's look at this one. Control T, Alt. Let's expand it out. Yeah, I kind of like that. This needs to come over a little bit to the right. So something like that. Okay. And okay, so this has got to be Zing. Okay, and I think I may want a bolder font. That's pretty futuristic. I kind of like that one. Okay, I'm going to hold down the Shift key. Just going to drop this. Now, let's take him out here. Let's hold that one. Let's look at some other ones. I want something kind of bold. I like that, but it's got that really thin stroke on it, which will be a problem. Like that. Ooh, it's kind of fun and bold at the same time. All right, let's shrink it a little bit, maybe 160. Might work. Let's move it up. Let's tuck it a little bit. Okay, I kind of like that. All right. Now let's turn on. All right, I'm going to bring this Meyer lemon into here. Now I did need to copy. Let's go here. And we need to copy this and put it on that one. Okay. So we can turn off that design, focus on this one. Okay, so let's get us another flavor, another font for this flavor, Meyer Lemon. Okay, let's look for something for that. I don't like the way that closes up. Kind of like that. Let's hold down the Alt key. It's got to be smaller or something about like that. That might look okay. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Let's move this one back over with our other stuff and make sure it's in our workspace and close the workspace. And now I can turn on the other two. And by the way, go to my hand tool and F, hit twice, will hide your interface. And there we go. So, oops, I see how, okay. I accidentally, when I copied this and moved it over, it didn't make a copy of it. So let's go here. And then I need to copy that. Matter of fact, if I copy it that way, it won't hold it's in the right place. Whereas if I drag it, holding down the Alt key to copy it, and drag it down and drop it on the second design, then it'll go right back in place. So I know my registration is the same. Okay, so pick off of it so nothing is selected, and hit F, and I want to be in my hand tool, and then Alt center mouse button, and to get rid of the labels, that's Control H. Okay, and so there we go. There's my three designs. Okay, I would change and put the other flavor in here. I forget what the other flavor is right now, but I would do the three flavors. So what you're showing me is different designs of how you would incorporate the branding in with it, different fonts for the flavors, and that's how I would approach this. Okay, then the last thing we need to do is we need to package this. So what you'll need to do is, in order to package this, you're going to need to take this workspace fonts that you have out here, and you're going to need to put them in their own artboard because they won't show up otherwise. So just make you an artboard out here. Okay. And we'll just name this workspace. And then if I want, I could move it, adjust it if I want to. Okay, so, these are my designs. This is my workspace. Now, you have to have it on the artboard because we're going to archive this. We're going to package it, and it's only going to package things that are on a workspace. So we're making a dummy workspace out here. Okay, then you want to go ahead and save this. Okay, so we're going to save this TIFF. And I'm just going to call it underscore package. So this will be my TIFF that I'm going to package. Okay. All right, so there you go with that. Now we'll need to go over to Illustrator. Okay, so in Illustrator, we're going to open up the TIFF file. Now, the reason we're doing this is because Photoshop doesn't allow you to package your fonts with the file that we can do in Illustrator. So we're just going to open up our TIFF file in here and then package it. Before we do that, though, I need to make a folder. Okay, so you're going to make a folder on your hard drive. And I'm going to name it the same thing that my package is. Okay. And then I'm going to want to take that TIFF file that I made. Okay, so I'm just going to right click on this and cut this. Right click, cut. And then go into my folder that I just made for it right here. And just paste it here. So it's in a folder all by itself. Okay. All right, then we're going to go in here and open it. So just file open, just like you're opening an Illustrator file. And we're going to go into that folder. Where do we go here? Right here. And there it is. And I'm going to open it. Okay, so then you're going to have a little pop-up come up here, and we want to leave this on convert layers to objects. Okay, we don't want to flatten it. We want to convert it to objects, but we do want import hidden layers. So if you happen to be on any of your artboards, if you have any layers that are hidden, it'll import those with it also. Okay, and if you can see on my little icon, which I don't know, maybe too small, you can see it's got the 3 designs and my other little artboard I made. Okay, so we'll just open this, and this is just going to open the file. Okay, and you'll see. There we go, and then I can close all of these layers over here. It'll make sense to if I kind of close these. Okay, so there's your workspace over there, and then each one of these are on their own. Okay, so we don't really need to do anything in here once we brought it in. All we need to do is to package it. Okay, so we're going to go to package it. Now it's going to ask us to save it as an Illustrator file, which is fine. Okay, so we'll just save it back into that same folder. Okay. And then it's going to ask us to package it. Okay, and we just want to leave all the defaults on there. We definitely want, create with a PDF file compatible, PDF file compatible. So just do that. And then we're going to point it to where we have that file, that folder made. Okay, which is right there. Okay, and then it'll default to be the name of this. Okay, so I'm going to go there and package. Show the package. Here we go. All right, so if I go up one, you'll see there's the folder with everything in it. There's Illustrator, there's the TIFF file. Go up one more, and then I want to zip this. So send this to a compressed file. And then that's what we're going to submit. That's what you're going to submit to me, which will have inside of that, if I open it up, you'll see it'll have an Illustrator file. There's the TIFF file, and it'll also have all the fonts in there as well. Okay, and that's what you need to submit to me, so that when I open up your TIFF file, I can install those fonts, and then I'll be able to see your design just as you created it. Okay, that's what we need to do. Hopefully that helped you guys. All right, thank you.